What is happening, people, and welcome to today's video where I want to talk to you guys about what a typical day of eating looks for me like currently, because things have changed a lot. A couple things you should know about me before we get in this video. The first of which is that I am still recovering from a chronic illness that makes me throw up about 3 times a day. So it's not super significant. It was significant at one time. It was really, really bad. And then the second thing is that I'm a super bad insomniac. So that means that my eating patterns are going to look a lot different than yours, because my first meals typically happen at about 1 to 2 a.m. when I wake up. It's probably also important to mention that just because I wake up at like 1 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean that my whole house wakes up at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And something as easy as like opening the fridge is going to wake up my dogs, trigger them, and set off a chain reaction of nonsense that I really don't need. So for that reason, my first meal, sometimes 2 meals, takes place in my basement where it can be as quiet as possible, and that means that it's typically supplement based, which means I'm doing some sort of shake or protein bars. And since I am sponsored by First Form, it just happens to be that if I'm doing a shake, it is always going to be either level 1 at this time of day. It's going to be level 1 because that's more of like a meal replacement. My favorite flavors are chocolate, mint ice cream sandwich, and blueberry muffin. Those are the ones that I can kind of return to and just do the same thing day after day and don't really get sick of. Or I do some sort of protein shake. Protein bar. Now, I will say that I've tried almost every protein bar that First Form has to offer, and I don't like a lot of the taste of many of them, but the 2 that I always return back to are the peanut butter lovers and the chocolate peanut butter pretzel. With whether it be 1 meal or 2 meal here in the middle of the night, I always take 2 fish oil capsules with every single meal that I do throughout the day. So if I do forget to mention that, just realize that every single one of these meals that I mentioned, 2 fish oil caps come with that. But that usually happens from like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then again maybe at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, the second feeding will happen, and then I kind of get into my day and my chores and everything happens. So the first meal that I actually stop and eat real food happens usually around 11 o'clock. Now, all of my chores that I'm doing all morning long are literally all hard manual labor. So I typically look for a pretty big hearty breakfast. So it almost always consists of 6 farm fresh eggs with some sort of local breakfast meat as well as cheese. Now, all of our food, like 99% of like all of our meat, eggs, milk, poultry, all that kind of stuff literally comes from a local farm that is less than 2 miles away. We barter like firewood for food or work for food and things like that, as well as just purchase a lot from their store. So it can't be any more local, it can't be any more raw, it can't be any more naturally grown and everything. We know the animals, we see how they're raised, so really good, healthy options. But again, my first meal that I actually eat real food usually happens around 11 o'clock. It's 6 eggs, some sort of meat. If I had to put a number, I'd probably say like 4 to 6 ounces of breakfast meat, usually 3 to 4 slices of cheese. Eat that concoction. If there is local fruit available at the time, like seasonal fruit, I will almost have something like that. 2 fish oil caps, and you can just about guarantee at least 24 ounces to a half gallon of just the most local, fresh, raw milk that you can get. After that meal, I'll go back to work for a couple hours, and usually around like 3 o'clock, it is either time to lift or it is time for a snack. Now, if I'm doing some sort of snack, it is almost always going to be beef jerky and fruit. Now, like I said earlier, with the seasonal fruit, I will always choose something I can buy local from an orchard, something that I can actually pick off a tree and take a bite out of rather than buy something from a supermarket. I really don't like to buy much from like a normal grocery store if I can get away with it. But whatever season it is, I will do that fruit. And if I can't and I do need to buy stuff from the supermarket, it is almost always Granny Smith apples and bananas. I eat those like crazy during like the winter time when I can't get a hold of other stuff. But again, the protein source for this meal is almost always going to be homemade beef jerky. I did an entire video about how you can make your own homemade beef jerky. It is relatively cheap, and then you're just walking around snacking on steak rather than whatever else you would have done. Other protein sources that I will use at this time sometimes are protein bars, especially if I'm like out in the woods or out doing something else and don't have jerky with me. Protein bars are a really easy thing for me to just grab and snack, and again, I legitimately like them. But if I am near my house, I can also sometimes do like egg salad or deviled eggs, things like that. Again, just using that farm fresh source and using high protein little bundles of food called eggs. Now, if it was a workout day, then I'm going to be having a protein shake. Not beforehand, not afterwards. I do my protein shakes while I'm working out throughout, and it's mixed half water, half milk, like full fat vitamin D milk, and I use Formula One because again, it's from First Form. This is kind of like more of an isolate protein. It's a little bit faster moving through you, but Loop de Fruit is the flavor that I use, and I use this exclusively because I've tried a bunch of the other flavors, and honestly, nothing in my mind compares to drinking Fruit Loops while you're working out. So that's why I do that all the time. And again, I just have a closet full of this one particular flavor because that's the only one that I've used after everything that I've tried. Also, before I forget, that snack meal happens every single day whether I'm training or not. So if I am training, it's just the protein shake on top of those other meals. So that would be meal 5 on a training day, meal 4 on a non-training day. And finally, meal 6, which is my biggest meal of the day, and it's the one that I actually sit down, I eat with my wife, and it's a very nice time. That almost always consists of either some sort of poultry that is local, farm fresh, or some sort of red meat, whether it be beef, bison, or lamb. Those are pretty much our go-tos, but we will make some sort of meat with either sweet potatoes or rice and some sort of vegetable that is typically green. That's pretty much what it consists of. I also get a bunch of milk at that meal as well as 2 fish oil caps, but that is probably where I eat the most mass of food, whether it be the egg meal or that meal. It's kind of debatable, but yeah, it's always a lot of meat, almost always sweet potatoes or rice, and then a bunch of vegetables. All right, so there you guys go. That is what a typical day of eating almost always looks for me. It really doesn't change that much. The biggest change would be the night meal where the variations of it change, but it's almost always just meat, vegetables, and sweet potatoes or rice. So that's probably the biggest variation. Other than that, throughout the day, it all stays virtually the same. I know it's changed a lot because in the past I had to do a lot more protein shakes because either I was away from home or I was so sick that I couldn't really spend as much time chewing and things like that because it didn't really go too well with the nausea. But now that I am feeling better, I am trying to do more real food. And the only time that I'm really replacing a meal with supplements is during the middle of the night when I want to be quiet. And honestly, my stomach is a little bit more volatile at that time. So it's just a safer bet to go with the supplements to try to keep as much protein in as I can. But I thank you guys so much for all of you who requested this video, have been asking me how things are going, how my health is doing and stuff like that. So hopefully this will give you a little bit of an update and a positive kind of news about where my progress is headed. My shoulder has been getting better. I'm holding on my calories, working on my mental health, helping me sleep a little bit better, which is also helping the throwing up. So it is all going really, really well, and I am progressing in the right direction, which will hopefully lead to some big things and hopefully some bigger plans that may or may not be in the future. So I do thank you guys so much for all the time, all the attention, just everything that you guys do to help support the channel. Hey, about the supplements, if you guys are interested in trying out First Form supplements, it doesn't matter to me if you do or not. It doesn't make or break the channel. Don't worry about that. But if you did want to support the channel through the supplements that you buy, just go to firstform.com/neversate, and then that kind of takes you to, it's the exact same site. It looks zero different, but apparently it's just register my name and I get a cut of it. You don't get a discount, so if you do it, it's just to help support the channel. And like I said, it doesn't make or break. So if you are going to use those supplements, please use my channel code, whatever thing. But if you don't and you have other supplements, just use those. It's not a big deal. I'm just happy to be here. Happy that you guys watching the video. So I just thank you so much for absolutely everything. I will catch up with you later in the week. Until I do go out something amazing with you guys, keep working hard, people. Be nice to each other. See you then.